Max Verstappen proved why he deserves this championship more than Lando. Alpine pulled off a masterclass and now jumped to 6th in the championship, and George claims he could have won if not for Mercedes' mistake. Do consider subscribing. Let's get into the latest F1 news. Lando Norris expressed his disappointment after an unfortunate performance at the Brazilian Grand Prix effectively put an end to his already slim hopes of winning the Formula One title this season. This was a tough blow for him and his team, McLaren, as they had high hopes going into the race. On Sunday morning, Norris managed to secure pole position during the rescheduled qualifying session, while his main rival for the championship, Max Verstappen, found himself starting far behind in 17th place. With the title race still very much alive, both Norris and McLaren were optimistic about reducing the gap in points at the top of the Drivers' Championship standings. However, what unfolded during the race was quite different from what they had hoped for. As the race played out, Verstappen delivered an astonishing performance in the wet conditions, overcoming several incidents on the track as he raced his way to victory. This win marked Verstappen's first triumph in the last 10 races, while Norris struggled to find his rhythm, ultimately finishing in 6th place. Norris's race got off to a rocky start when he committed a starting infringement, pulling away from the line even though there had been an aborted start. This incident is set to be reviewed by race stewards after the conclusion of the event, adding another layer of frustration for Norris. Once the race finally progressed, he lost his lead to fellow competitor George Russell and took the decision to pit for fresh intermediate tires just as a virtual safety car was coming to an end. This timing proved to be unfortunate, as he lost several positions just moments before the race was halted by a red flag. This turn of events allowed Verstappen, along with the Alpine drivers Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, who ultimately filled the podium positions, a free opportunity to change their tires before the race resumed, deepening Norris's disappointment. Reflecting on his decision to pit, Norris said, "It was the right time to box, it was the right thing to do, so no regrets, just unlucky." He went on to comment on the rules that have come under scrutiny, stating, "It's a silly rule that no one agrees with, but you will always find a way to support it when it works in your favor. Every driver has indicated that they oppose it and wish to see it changed." He acknowledged the dual nature of racing, saying, "You win some, you lose some, and today it worked in their favor. So congratulations to them." When questioned about the initial aborted start, Norris indicated some uncertainty, saying, "I'm not sure what happened. I need to discuss it further with the team." With Verstappen now having the chance to secure his 4th World Championship in Las Vegas during the next race, Norris admitted that the Red Bull car was operating at a level that was distinctly above the competition given the challenging conditions in Sao Paulo. Reflecting on his own performance, Norris mentioned, "I did everything I could today, that's all I can say." He acknowledged Verstappen's skill in winning the race, stating, "Max won the race. Good for him, well done, but it doesn't change anything for me." He assessed the pace of their car, saying, "Max was clearly faster than us, and I believe that if he had started from the front, he probably would have lapped us." He felt his own pace was decent and comparable to Russell's, yet he recognized that the Red Bull was exceptionally quick that day. "Overall, it has been a weekend filled with ups and downs for me, for sure. There was not much more I could have done. I imagine George feels like he won the race today, as he deserved it more than anyone else on the track," he continued. "Realistically, I too could say I finished in a higher position, maybe even 3rd. It's tough to swallow knowing how close it was. Max likely would have made his way through the pack anyway, and would have beaten us." He concluded with a sense of acceptance, saying, "It's just unfortunate for us. There's nothing more to say about it. I made a few mistakes along the way that I take responsibility for, and those mistakes ultimately cost me some positions in the final standings, but that's just how it goes sometimes." George Russell feels strongly that he should have listened to his instincts and ignored the advice of his Mercedes team when they instructed him to pit just moments before the Brazilian Grand Prix in Formula One was stopped due to a red flag. At the start of the race, Russell managed to take the lead as he approached the first corner after a previous start attempt was called off, which is currently under investigation. While racing, he carefully maintained distance from Lando Norris, the McLaren driver who had secured pole position, even as Norris stayed close behind him throughout the deteriorating weather conditions. Both drivers missed the opportunity to pit when a virtual safety car was introduced immediately after they completed the final corner. However, shortly after this, They chose to come into the pits just before the race was halted by a crash involving Franco Colapinto's Williams, which caused the red flag that paused the event. This sequence of events provided a significant edge to the 3 drivers who decided not to pit during that time, enabling them to change to fresh tires before the race resumed. Max Verstappen, who had started in 17th position, managed to end his dry spell of wins, while Alpine teammates Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly filled out the rest of the podium places. Lando Norris expressed his frustration with the pit call after finishing in 6th place, while Russell reflected on his own choices, recalling how he had made a successful decision during the Belgian Grand Prix in Spa, where he chose not to pit again, allowing him to cross the finish line in 1st place, only to be disqualified afterward due to his car being found to be underweight. Russell summed up his feelings about potentially missing out on a podium finish in Brazil after claiming 4th place, stating that it was very painful all things considered, and added that there wasn't much else he wanted to say on the matter. When discussing the decision to pit, he elaborated on the communication with his team. They told me to box, which means to pit. I told them I wanted to stay out. They repeated box again, and I responded with stay out. Finally, they told me to box once more, but I insisted, I want to stay out. And then I thought, you have to be bold in these situations. He continued, sometimes you really need to trust your gut. Last time I went with my instincts, it turned out quite well for me. As for whether he might have had a chance to win the race, Russell speculated, who knows what could have happened? But if we hadn't pitted, we would have been leading the race when it restarted, controlling the pace for the first 30 laps. With Lando behind us, we had very good straight-line speed, so I believe finishing in 2nd place would have at least been our minimum result. Russell feels that he had a better perspective from the cockpit compared to the decision-makers at the Mercedes pit wall regarding the strategy of whether to pit or stay out. He explained, it's not obvious at all from the team's standpoint, but from where I was driving, it became very clear that we were likely going to see a red flag or a safety car, because the track conditions were just unmanageable. The rain showed no signs of letting up, and I could clearly see a large, dark cloud hovering above. He went on to share his frustration about his communication during the race, saying, then Andrew Shovlin, who is the trackside engineering director for Mercedes, came on the radio and seemed to override my engineer's decision to say box. Russell emphasized the importance of teamwork, stating, we are all working together to try to make the best decisions under pressure and in a short amount of time. He acknowledged the reality that the drivers who did not pit ultimately finished in the top 3 positions, while he and others who chose to pit were left behind. However, he also took a small sense of satisfaction from the fact that he finished as the highest-ranked driver out of those who did decide to pit. Max Verstappen let out a huge sigh of relief after securing an impressive victory at the rain-soaked Brazilian Grand Prix. His win brings him one step closer to claiming the 2024 Formula One World Drivers' title, a goal he has been passionately pursuing throughout the season. On the other hand, his closest competitor for the championship, Lando Norris, faced difficulties and ended up finishing in 6th place after starting the race from pole position. Despite the challenging weather conditions, Verstappen demonstrated remarkable composure and skill, delivering a flawless performance in the wet circumstances that exemplified his driving prowess. The reigning world champion made a remarkable achievement by setting an astounding 17 fastest laps during the race, successfully navigating his way up from the 17th position on the starting grid to take 1st place and achieve victory. Throughout the race, he rarely made mistakes while other drivers struggled, skidded off the track, and occasionally crashed into barriers. This performance is arguably one of the most impressive of Verstappen's career in such wet conditions. His victory, along with the additional point he gained for registering the fastest lap, extended his lead over Norris to 62 points in the championship standings. Now, heading into the next race at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, Verstappen is on the brink of clinching his 4th consecutive championship title. The excitement of this year's title fight became much less intense during the 43rd lap in Brazil. As Verstappen took over the lead by overtaking Esteban Ocon, Norris made a crucial mistake by going wide at turn 1 and had to swap positions with his teammate Oscar Piastri to regain 6th place. This victory marks Verstappen's first win since the Spanish Grand Prix held on June 23rd, which effectively dampens Norris's slim hopes of seizing his first championship title. Reflecting on his important win, Verstappen stated that it was crucial, especially considering he anticipated losing valuable points. Moving forward, he expressed a desire for consistent, clean races until the end of the season. He emphasized that he is not focused on claiming the championship in Las Vegas, but rather on ensuring he completes each race without any issues. While he admitted he wished he could have secured a win a bit sooner given the season's challenges, Verstappen highlighted the team's resilience and continual push for improvement. Despite not fully understanding why their competitors were so much faster on race day, they maintained their efforts to enhance the car's performance. Starting from 17th place on the grid this morning made victory seem unlikely, so achieving this result was phenomenal for him and the team. Verstappen reflected on the race as a significant boost for his team, acknowledging that the season had indeed been tough. However, he praised their ability to stay calm and focused on improving their performance, stating his confidence for the final 3 races. He believes they have a good chance to fight at a high level again, particularly when it comes to race day performance. He revealed that his emotions had swung dramatically from wanting to destroy the team's garage after a poorly timed red flag in qualifying, followed by a 5-place grid penalty that forced him to begin the race in 17th. Regarding his impressive recovery during the race, he shared how his feelings transitioned from frustration to exhilaration when he eventually won. He recalled the good start they had, which set a positive tone for the race, and how they managed to pick off competitors one by one. At one point in the race, he found himself stuck behind Yuki Tsunoda and remained patient while staying calm during the long race. The team made all the right decisions regarding pit stops, notably staying out on track when it looked like rain was approaching, a choice that felt risky at the time. Verstappen described the conditions as extremely challenging, saying he was simply trying to keep the car on the track. At one moment, conditions got so severe that he felt it was almost undrivable, comparing the experience to driving a boat or jet ski. After facing some tough moments earlier in the season, including penalties and criticism from earlier races in Austin and Mexico, where he had a contentious on-track clash with Norris, Verstappen's cheerful demeanor and confidence have returned. He previously expressed feeling out of place, hinting at what he perceived to be a biased atmosphere towards British drivers within the F1 paddock. He confronted the press during a press conference by questioning the lack of attendance from British reporters, asking if they were unaware of the conference's location or if they were in a rush to catch flights, underscoring his belief in the unfair treatment he has faced. Formula One's president and CEO Stefano Domenicali expressed his heartfelt gratitude to the fans who were present at the Interlagos racetrack for their patience and dedication during a challenging weekend when the qualification process was postponed. The qualifying session that was originally scheduled for Saturday faced significant delays and was ultimately moved to Sunday morning, starting at 7:30 a.m. local time. This qualifying session turned out to be quite lengthy, lasting nearly 2 hours and featuring 5 red flags, which highlighted the difficulties faced on the track. This was followed by a highly anticipated Grand Prix later in the day. Domenicali explained that the decision to postpone the qualifying session was indeed the correct choice given the circumstances. The FIA had previously decided that qualifying could not proceed due to safety concerns caused by heavy rainfall in São Paulo, which made the track conditions unsafe for racing. Although Sunday ended up being packed with racing activities, it is worth noting that it is not entirely unusual for Formula One qualifying sessions to take place on a Sunday. However, it is quite rare for these sessions to be delayed to such an extent because of adverse weather conditions. The ultimate race that occurred later that day was nothing short of spectacular and quickly gained the status of an instant classic. Max Verstappen, who started the race from 17th position on the grid, delivered an impressive performance, ultimately securing a vital victory as he moves closer to what he hopes will be his 4th World Championship title. The changing weather significantly influenced the race, leading to exciting battles throughout the field. In light of the impending forecast, which suggested further weather disruptions later in the day, the race officials decided to start the Grand Prix 90 minutes earlier than scheduled. Domenicali remarked that this adjustment was made to ensure they could fully maximize the opportunity for the race to take place without any further interruptions, a plan that fortunately came to fruition. In his statement, Domenicali emphasized the importance of the support from the audience, saying, "I want to extend my thanks to all our fans, as well as everyone involved in the sport for their patience and dedication throughout this weekend of racing." He further stated, "I genuinely believe that moving both the qualifying and the race earlier on Sunday was the best decision to increase the chances of the races happening due to the potential bad weather forecast later in the day." He continued his tribute to the fans in Brazil by noting that over 290,000 people had gathered for this incredible weekend of racing, and it certainly culminated in an unforgettable race experience. In conclusion, Domenicali expressed his deep appreciation for all the supporters, the FIA, the event promoter, the drivers, the teams, the media, the broadcasters, and the marshals, recognizing their collective efforts in making the weekend a remarkable success despite the challenging circumstances they faced. Pierre Gasly recently expressed his surprise and excitement regarding Alpine's unexpected achievement of securing a remarkable double podium finish in the São Paulo Grand Prix. He noted that such a result was not something anyone could have anticipated, and certainly was not something on anyone's bingo cards, especially given how challenging the team's season has been thus far. During the race at Interlagos, both Gasly and his teammate Esteban Ocon delivered outstanding performances despite the tricky wet conditions that persisted throughout the event. Gasly had started the race from the 15th position on the grid, while Ocon qualified impressively in 4th place. Gasly showcased his skills by executing several excellent overtakes and making judicious decisions during the race. One of the most clever moves he made was opting not to pit before a red flag was waved on lap 33 due to a significant crash involving Franco Colapinto. This decisive choice allowed him to restart the race in 3rd position, where he maintained his place until the end, achieving his first podium finish since he stood on the podium at last season's Dutch Grand Prix. Gasly shared his thoughts on the day's events, stating that it was an incredible moment for the entire team, especially after enduring such a difficult season where scoring points had been a struggle. He emphasized the unpredictability of racing in challenging conditions, saying that anything could happen, and they kept their belief strong until the very end, celebrating the accomplishment of having 2 cars finish on the podium. "I don't think anyone would have gotten that on their bingo card at the start of the season," Gasly remarked enthusiastically, "so it's just fantastic." On the other hand, Esteban Ocon, who is set to leave Alpine soon, also had an exceptional race. He demonstrated his skill in the wet conditions right from the start of qualifying, securing a solid 4th place on the grid. Throughout the race, he remained competitive and even took the lead after George Russell and Lando Norris made their pit stops just before the red flag was deployed. After the red flag, Ocon restarted the race strongly and managed to create a gap of 3 seconds between himself and Max Verstappen. However, when the race was halted again on lap 40 due to a crash involving Carlos Sainz, Ocon's advantage was challenged. When the race resumed on lap 43, Verstappen was quick off the mark, overtaking Ocon at the first corner. Despite this, Ocon finished in an impressive 2nd place. Reflecting on the day, Ocon said, "What a day that was." He expressed his happiness after such a tough season, relishing the opportunity to drive competitively in the wet conditions. He highlighted a wise saying that someone important to the team once shared, which indicated that in rainy conditions, the performance of the cars tends to level out, and he felt this statement was very much true. "I'm very happy to be on the podium today," Ocon concluded, noting how awesome the experience had been. That's it for this video. I'll see you around.